Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, August 9th, so I will call the meeting of the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. We do have regrets from Councillor McKechnie, just want to point that out. So first up, we have a motion then to adopt our agenda. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Clark and Councillor Wood-Roberts. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting held on August 9th, 2022 be approved as presented. All in favor? Okay, carried. And next I'll see if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Next we have the adoption of our minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting from June 14th. Mover and a seconder for that, Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that June 14th, 2022 Committee of the Whole minutes be approved as circulated. All in favor? Okay, carried. So first up today, we have a delegation from our CEO at the library. We'll just bring them in for Christopher Stevenson and the board chair, Sally Howson. And we'll just wait till we see them on screen. Okay. Hi, Chris.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Is Sally joining us today or just you?
Sally will be here as well. I'm just making sure she hasn't texted me, but I did hear from her about half an hour ago.
Okay. From our end here, I'm being told that she's not.
Okay.
No. Okay. Well, so we have you on screen. So if you don't mind starting, and if you see Sally's face pop up, then she's zoomed in. Hopefully she's not having trouble. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mayor Roberts and Council. Thank you for having myself and hopefully that Library Chair Sally Howson join us today. I am the Library CEO of the Halliburton County Public Library, and I'm here to update you on some of the highlights from the past year, and I guess my 10th month here with the library myself. And with that, I could start with the slideshow, and I understand that staff will be advancing slides for us. Is that right?
Okay, are staff bringing the presentation?
We don't typically. We could pull it up.
I can also share my screen if that's.
Yeah, that would work best if you don't mind, Chris.
Sorry,
Thank you. That's all right.
All right. And can you see everything there?
Just went to some home page. There we go. Yep, perfect.
Okay, beautiful. All right, well, thank you so much. I'm going to advance to the second slide now.
So you'll need to do that, right?
Yes,
yep.
That's right. Okay, and you should see the second slide now, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having us. Like I said, I'll be giving you some highlights from the past year, and I'm fortunately going to have to look over at my notes at another part of the screen here. All right, so in the past year, we've had some staff departures. Over 70 years of collective experience have left us. Peter Vardy, Vicki Fraser, and Vicki Rodden, and two others as well who have made new life plans. And that's been a big shift for the organization as we transition to having some new people join us. However, we're building momentum as we go in the post-pandemic era, and we're certainly enjoying programming at a higher level than ever before. As well, partnerships are increasing because we have a new programmer. Hillary Montgomery joined us, and a new halftime marketing role with Tessa Isles, and that's helping us promote what we're doing. As well, we have new services added, such as Canopy streaming service and also digital magazines. So that's over 4,000 magazines are available online, as well as hundreds of movies and documentaries for those rainy days. Partnerships in the community are really what helps us drive programming and new initiatives. And we're really lucky to have strong relationships, and certainly the library benefits by these local partnerships, creating expertise and programming in our talks throughout the library system. So these are a wide range from early on, for example, to the Green Burial Society, climate change initiatives, children's author readings, and support as well, ongoing support for genealogy research. Accessibility is important to us, and we've launched new technologies such as a microphone system at 3 of our branches to help the communication with people who may be relying on reading lips through the glass. This technology has already improved many people's experience in the library at Wilberforce, Dysart, and Minden branches. And as well, Friends of the Library are super active in the last little while. They've hosted 2 successful book sales in our back porch area and have raised a couple $1,000s already this year. And I have to say that the ongoing media support that we enjoy has really helped drive new interest. We're having people signing up in droves lately, certainly as a result of returning to the library after the COVID period. I'm going to advance the slide now. The Dysart branch here is well used. It's well loved for sure. And we're hitting some foot traffic levels that match pre-pandemic levels. So this is 240 to 280 people on an average Tuesday, for example, when the farmers market's running, and we also have a rainy day situation. I'd like to give a shout out to municipal staff for the ways in which they care for this facility all year round. The branch, the grounds, and the library administration office. Last week we met Rob, who's now helping us take care of the building, and we feel like we're in really great hands. There's a solutions-oriented approach at all times, and it's often preemptive support as well, whether it's our septic freezing in the winter, regular maintenance, or ongoing problem solving through the months. So we're very grateful for this care and attention. Some exciting things that we were working on through the winter came to fruition in about June when we launched our new logo. Simultaneously, we also did a refresh of our website, which was exciting because most people discover the library, the initial times through our website. And we have new colors, as you would have seen on the opening slide. It's showing up in various ways around the library as well. And the feedback that we're getting is that BiblioCommons, which is integrated into our website, has made searching easier than ever before. So within a few clicks, you can now access a book or a movie that you may be looking for and quickly place that on hold. So a really great shout out to the persistence of staff all through the winter here as we were really excited to make these launches happen. And with that, I would like to say also that we've hired new staff beyond Hillary Montgomery, as I mentioned. We've also hired 4 new branch staff to fill the positions for those that left. It took us a little while to find the right folks for the right fit, but we're really pleased to have a fully functioning staff throughout the library system now. It's a big help. And with that, I'd like to pass the pause for a few minutes for some words from our library board chair, Sally Howson.
Thank you very much for having us. Sorry for being a bit late. Technology is not always our friend, so I got on, but here I am. And thank you for having us. I know you have a very busy schedule, but as you can see, we did want to give you an update on all the changes to the library. We haven't done this for a while. And of course, one of the changes is Chris Stevenson, who you will now have met via virtually. And now you'll recognize him on the street, he is our new CEO. He's been with us for almost a year. That is one of the many changes in the library system that Chris is talking about. But as you know, the term for the board ends in November. And of course, the 4 public positions will be posted in December. And I would encourage all of you, if you know someone who might be interested in participating on the library board, to let them know that these positions will be coming up, because County Council will be appointing a new board probably at the end of December or early January. I'm not exactly sure when that happens. And we always do like to have a representative from each township. We have, of course, been represented with Dysart. I actually live in Dysart. So if you do know someone who you think might be interested in being on the library board, I would encourage you to talk to them. They certainly can talk to Chris or myself about what being a board member means. And it is a very fulfilling position to hold. And I certainly have enjoyed the time that I have been on the board. So there will be some more changes with the new board coming on board. And with that, I'll hand it back to Chris. But again, thank you very much for your time, as I know it is precious.
Thank you, Sally. Just to wrap up, I did present in a separate document, hopefully it was received by members of council, a presentation of the library's annual report. So this is a snapshot that we put out mid-year. It shows what we're currently focused on. It includes some statistics and facts about our impact since about last summer. This report incorporates, again, our new colors and our fonts, and it's designed to help patrons and residents learn more about the scope and scale about what we do here at the library. This was presented in a separate document, like I said, as a PDF. We start with the word modernization because we're certainly digging into all the areas of the library and our branches throughout the system, whether it means cleaning out with our January cure, as it was called, and replacing furniture and looking for ways to improve accessibility. And then online as well as one more example about facilitating accessibility, supporting internet improvements and making the switch to online streaming is one way in which we help reach more people than ever before. And of course, that has some careful budget impacts as we make choices in traditional purchases for books, and then also use our library consortium through the Ontario Library Consortium, or OLC, to make purchases such as the digital magazines available. So at this time, I'd like to just stop talking, and we'd be very pleased to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sally and Chris, for that presentation. And as Dysart councillors know, I'm the rep for Dysart on the library board, and I have been, this is my second term, so for a total of 8 years. Yeah, Chris, if you don't mind just not sharing screen anymore, and then that'll, perfect. One of the things, a couple of things I wanted to add to that is to do with the rebranding. Is it about how it's AODA compliant? When we were looking at some of the, so sorry, Chris, I'm going to interrupt myself. I think you still need to hit.
I know, I'm sorry, I can't seem to expand my screen here.
Unshare. But I'll continue while you're looking at that. So part of that, we were looking at sort of what some of the literature was before and after. So it's all AODA compliant. So it's not just about pretty colors and font. And well, actually it is about font, but it's not just that. It is making it more for accessibility. The other thing that we're working on and hoping to finalize before this term is over is our strategic plan. We've been working on that since Chris, I think the first week that you started last year, we did a strat plan session. And so I know we've been working on that. And the other thing you talked about the numbers at the Dysart branch, I believe I was in that rainy Tuesday myself. And I looked around and went, wow. I was there with my little 4-year-old grandson who was having a library visit for the first time and was tickled that he could take home some books. But it's also the importance of the actual building and the place, and how much libraries are an important part of our community as a gathering place. And, so it's great. Thank you for the compliment to Dysart staff to try to keep it clean and tidy and neat. And the only other thing that I'm a little bit sad about is when I do see the pictures that you included of the gentlemen sitting on the back porch, that they're sitting in their own travel chairs. When the library was first constructed, we had a very generous donation, and we were able to buy some really nice quality furniture. And sadly, due to vandalism and some time, but mostly vandalism, all that furniture is gone, which is really unfortunate. There were some quite nice, comfortable chairs and table set up. So, there's the porch with no furniture. So did you, with any of the comments I just made, did you want to answer about strat plan or the AODA compliant or anything like that? If not, I'll open it up to the floor.
Sure, if I could. Thank you. Yes, of course, accessibility isn't just something that we do at the front desk. or throughout the branches, but also training that is ongoing with the staff led by County IT. We're learning to remediate PDFs so that they're fully accessible for those that are experiencing the library online. And to that end, as we go through those older documents and remediate, they'll start appearing on our new website. So we're adding content all the time. And then as well with the strat plan, that will be launched first draft at the next board meeting. We'll be meeting shortly after with the library board to develop a mission, vision, and values, or at least to reevaluate what we've got currently, because it is in many ways a new era with all the change that we've had, a fresh start in many ways too. So we would like to mark that, as we said, with the logo, but it goes much beyond that, right from, as I said, investigating every area of the library, from the technologies that we're using and maybe retiring certain technologies as we go. And then also investing in our staff to train them up so that they can support the community as they go through the iterations of technology that we all use. I think that's covered most of your comments, but if there's any other questions, you're certainly welcome to contact me anytime if you have questions as well.
Okay, so I'll open it up to the floor. Any questions from councillors or comments or anything? No, I just see some thumbs up. A question from Councillor Smith.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris and Sally. Just a quick point, Chris, you mentioned the microphone system, which is really an aid to those with hearing challenges. And you piloted in Dysart. You've rolled out to a couple of other branches. Is it something you would recommend to, for other community facilities? I know it was pretty inexpensive. And I think the county IT department actually selected it for you.
Actually, we researched it on our own. A few things came together. We had some staff comments, some patron comments, and then one of our admin staff had noticed at the dentist, it's the same dentist that I go to, they were using it there. So we inquired about the technology, found it online. It's less than $150. I think when we first put out social media about this purchase, IT had reached out to inquire as well. I would recommend it to anyone that has the glass or plastic barriers still up. For us, especially at Dysart branch, those glass partitions will remain up for the time being. They're actually built into the desk the way they are. So this is just another way that we can help those who have needs around better hearing the staff and their interactions at the front desk.
Excellent. So anybody, you'd say that to anybody that's got a glass or plastic partition for $150, you can enable improved communication with patrons or customers who have hearing challenges. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. And they're welcome if anyone has questions about the technology to come by, try it out. I can also lead them to help with purchasing or finding those.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Just, in the report, just to note, the numbers are pretty incredible for a county of our size. And one of the things sometimes on our library board meetings, one of the staff will do some Google Analytics and show, for instance, where the hits are. Like I use the Libby app a lot, which is a downloadable app that Chris was talking about that you can read on your phone or a device to be able to get a lot of books and magazines and audiobooks. It's fabulous. I love the Libby. But it's neat to see, it's from England and from here. It's patrons who are traveling. You still have to have a library card to be able to access that and your PIN. But after that, so that kind of thing is really interesting. So, and Sally, we're going to have to stop calling Chris the new CEO. You're not new anymore. You're 10 months in.
No, he's new to some people, I think. But yeah, he's been there almost a year. So he's not shiny new. He's
not new anymore. And we'll see you tomorrow night, library board meeting, which are open to the public by Zoom.
Yes.
So I need a mover and a seconder to receive this report. So Councillor Clark and Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the activity update and 2022 annual report from the representatives of the Halliburton County Public Library. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thanks so much and have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.
You will.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up we have is the fire department report, and I believe we're bringing in Dan. I see him on screen. The report was included in our package. Wait till I can see him. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
Okay, I'll let you speak to your report.
So as you can see there, the Diversion Fire Department, our call volume is increasing again. Again for another year. We have 52 calls for the month of July this year versus 55 this year versus 52 last year. Again, the medical calls are going up. One of the reasons for that currently, I think partly is due to the heat. We've had a couple extra calls to local camps. So certainly there's people up and running again at the camps, which hasn't been doing the last couple of years. But in general, the rest of them seem to be balanced out fairly even to what they have in the past. Just for interest's sake, we took part in one inspection this past month, which in conversation with Chief Isles in previous years, we are doing significantly more inspections. So I think in general, our local constituents are taking more of an interest in fire safety, which is great because these are done by request mostly. And as well, I'd like to mention that we have been approached by a company called the Mark Group for an opportunity to do some more public education. They produce a product, they're shopping bags effectively, but they're pre-printed to whatever message that we may want to have on that we can give out at some of these events now that we're able to start attending these events again. We were able to go to the homecoming Halliburton for the Rotary Club, and we got to thank you for the Rotary Club for our attendance on that rainy day. They were happy with how things were going. And we have another event for Stories in the Park we've been invited to. So some of that stuff, as well as our door-to-door stuff, our public education, is the stuff that we need to get back up into place now that our COVID restrictions are lifting.
Okay, so the report is there. I was helping at the Rotary Club's event as well. Didn't come over to say hello, but saw lots of kids walking around with those little bags and their little plastic fire chief hats or fire hats, whatever, which was great. And I think that was a real hit, even though it was because of the weather, it was not as well attended as it would have been if it was dry, but still the kids that came, it was great. So thank you for doing that. And I think it's really important now that COVID restrictions are lifted to be doing events like that and be in the community. It's part of that sort of outreach, and yeah, it's great. So thanks for that. Any comments, questions of the report? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Mover and a seconder then, please.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Smith. Be resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the fire department report for July 2022. All in favor? Okay, and carried. Thanks, Dan. Okay, next we're going to bring in some public works. Oh, are we? I thought.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in John.
Okay, even though are you on holidays?
I am, yes.
Okay, because I just read out your door when I came in, and okay, just for the public, you always have cute stuff in your door. Anyway, this little thing, he's on vacay, and I'm thinking, no. So here you are on vacation. Well, take it away. Food Cycler pilot project.
All right. So this is the fourth update on the Food Cycler pilot project. As Committee of the Whole is aware, the project ran from April 10th to July 2nd of 2022. This report is summarizing the results of week 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the weekly logs. Those weekly logs are very consistent in demonstrating that households were typically using the device 2 to 3 times per week, and then on occasion a fourth time per week. At the conclusion of the 12-week pilot, we did a more in-depth survey of the participants just to get a sense of how they felt about the device. Consistently, there was a feeling that it decreased the amount of garbage that they were producing or sending to landfill. People were storing the actual the bucket that fits into the food cycler on their counter in their kitchen to make it really accessible and easy for them to use. People did find that they were running the food cycler it's kind of split between more than they thought they would or running exactly the amount of time that they thought they would. The majority of people were unsure if there was an increase in their electricity costs, which I think is a demonstration that it's a low usage machine. And so people weren't really seeing any difference in their electricity bill. People who had been using a food cycler did identify that they were using, or if they had a composter, sorry, did identify that they were using their backyard composter less because of having the food cycler in their home. We also asked some questions that were at the end of the 12-week pilot. Would they continue using the food cycler? So 97.18% of the respondents said they would continue using the food cycler past the 12-week pilot project. And they rated the food cycler a 5 out of 5 in terms of its usefulness. We asked them additional questions too about whether Dysart should continue to offer this food cycler as a way to manage household food waste. 98.55% indicated that yes, Dysart should continue to offer the food cycler. We also asked if Dysart should financially subsidize the purchase price of the food cycler. And in that case, 94% of households who were participating felt that was a good option. We then went a little bit further and asked if federal or provincial funding was available, would you support Dysart providing food cycler to every Dysart household at no cost? And in that case, the response was 77.94% saying, yes, they would support that. So it was very interesting to see that people felt the food cycler was very beneficial to managing their food waste. And as we kind of theorized or guessed about whether a project could expand further, I think the financial cost of the food cycler device, people are unsure about whether the benefits of providing that kind of machine at that cost to people would be beneficial. So that was the second survey that we did. In addition, there had been talk that we've had previously about doing a second phase of the pilot project. And originally, we were going to invite the non-winners of the first round to participate in kind of a second phase of the pilot project. Unfortunately, Food Cycle Science, which manufactures the food cycler, was unable to kind of continue offering the price that they had originally offered us, basically because their commercial agreement they have with Vitamix prevents them from being able to offer that kind of discounted price without a municipality providing a subsidy. So at this point, they have offered that we can offer those 144 non-pilot winners a 25% discount on purchasing a Vitamix directly from Vitamix. So that's where that second phase of the pilot stands. I suspect we'll just offer that discount to our the non-participants, and it kind of segues into the other development where the 4 lower tier municipalities, 3 of which will have done a food cycler pilot project. We're now in a conversation with the county about the county potentially exploring an option for doing a larger food cycler pilot project or a larger project in general. So I know the county has been in discussion with Food Cycle Science and are just preparing a proposal of what that could look like. And this would be done under a climate change mitigation lens. So that is the update on the food cycler pilot project.
Okay, well, thank you for that. One thing is we know that technology works. It's tried and true. I know Councillor McKechnie is not here today, but I have a suspicion what he would say. And he's talking about incineration, but what about on a much larger scale, if households could collect their organic material and take it to a place where this could be done in a large system where that organic material goes in and with, because to me, I think some of the problem is what I've read about anyways with the incineration is it has to be on such a large scale to feed the beast, so to speak, that you need a large amount of organic material, which is then still trucking that organic material, which has a carbon footprint as well. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we could have something like this on a commercial size or a municipal size at the Halliburton waste disposal site where people could take stuff. So that's what I've been thinking when I read this project. So I don't know if that's even possible, and then I'll open it up. Just once I'm going to let John answer, and then
the first thing, for incineration, you definitely actually want the organics out of the garbage, because organics being wet does not burn very well. So you actually want to make sure you have an organics program separate from having incineration as the disposal method for the residual garbage. There are larger units available to compost at kind of a commercial level using this type of technology. So it is something we can explore about whether it is an option at our sites to operate. At some of our sites that have electricity, it maybe could become an option. Obviously, we'd want to maybe standardize the program to make sure people have a bin in their homes to collect the material or understand how to use it, how to use the program properly at our sites. So it's definitely something staff can research and come back to Committee of the Whole or Council with more information about.
Okay, thanks for that. And thanks for reminding me that organic material has to be out of what gets burned. But I was just thinking, it's great to have that little thing on your little kitchen counter for one household, but what if it was available on a larger scale? And clearly the technology is there, and it is extremely low electricity use. So Councillor Clark has his hand up for question, then Councillor Smith second.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for that, John. The idea of the township-wide collection, we've run into issues with that with Ministry of Environment before. I know Abbey Gardens tried to have a large scale one, and they're told no, it had to be licensing takes a couple of years. So there's some politics in the way of having an effective solution. This may, John probably knows more about it than I do, but this may provide an option for a different type of technology that might not come under the auspices of the Ministry of the Environment, but that would have to be explored, and that's probably something you'd want with your cohorts and the other townships, John. So I'll leave that.
Okay.
See if that is an option that doesn't engage or involve the Ministry of the Environment. Thank you.
John, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, because I think the situation Abbey Gardens ran into is that they don't have an environmental compliance approval to be a waste disposal site that is operating a commercial composting facility. Our ECA, for example, at Halliburton does permit us to compost, but we need to give the ministry 1 year's advance notice. And in that year, I think really fine tune what technology we're using and what resources or tools we're providing to residents to access that device. So I think we would maybe run into less issues than Abbey Gardens would have, but it's definitely something we need to kind of work with the ministry hand in hand to make sure that we're in compliance with any of their expectations about how that type of program would operate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Abbey Gardens isn't a waste disposal site, so they couldn't have taken anything from anybody else. They could do, and they do composting, but they can't. I can't take my little bag of greens up there. They can't take it from anywhere else. Councillor Smith, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly right. That I was involved in that. Abbey Gardens could only process their own waste. To accept it from somebody else is a lengthy process. But first, I think the Food Cycler report highlights the success here in terms of people having less garbage, less waste to bring to our landfill sites, and therefore less waste for us to have to pay to get processed and often hauled away. And so it's a great result, in those 100 homes that the council could be proud of having initiated this thing and bringing it through to that successful conclusion. It's unfortunate it's only 100, but it's 100 that weren't in place a year ago. And so to build on that, and Madam Mayor, I think your comment about I'll call it an industrial size solution ought to be part of the portfolio. The reality is that some people will always prefer to do it at home because they can manage it themselves and get the job done, and they don't need to haul their waste anywhere, and they're happy with that, and that's terrific. There'll be some other people who would say, I don't want to mess with that. I just throw it in a plastic bag and want to take it somewhere. And that's also great, except we don't do anything except put it in our garbage stream once we receive it at the landfill sites or transfer stations. And we've always held up the ECA as, well, we're not authorized to have a separate stream for organics. Well, it's encouraging to hear the kind of positive discussion today. And so, is staff going away with a specific direction to bring back a report by such and such a date? Do we need something more formal to, define what that report's going to have in it? Because this is a problem that's not going to go away. And, but it's going to start with some research, because there ought to be multiple solutions that we can offer. And it sounds like the county's going to pursue the food cycler. Terrific. For those homes that don't want to go the food cycler route, what's the other options? And so, Madam Mayor, you made a comment or asked staff if they could do something. Is that the direction, or do we need to have something from council that's more specific? Because it would be great to see some progress on this front.
So I'm going to turn to our trustee clerk there, Mallory, to ask if we should add to the resolution just to make it a little bit more, to give staff direction. Should we
I
add?
believe, I'll confer with John here, but I believe staff do a quarterly organics update. Is that true, John?
Typically we have been. I haven't done it really so much this year because we've had 4 food cycler updates in a row, so it's been nonstop. I definitely feel, having worked in municipality with composting in a more formal process, that this is definitely something I would love to see Dysart pursue. So I definitely have that sense that this is something I should continue to research, and I can come back to her with the report as soon as I've got more information about it. So I get the urgency and the desire and the need.
So I guess my question would be, is that it would probably be part of your organics updates that you do traditionally.
Yeah.
So likely it will, like John's constantly thinking about this. So I don't think that we need further, because council already directed in the past that organics updates continue to come to council. So that would be my.
Yeah, so why don't we keep the resolution as it is, which is to receive the report, and then in minutes reflect that that John Watson will be further investigating the possibility of a large scale, whatever you want to call it, digester at a landfill. Okay, so that'll be in the minutes. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, because it's about serving all the residents. It's also about serving the commercial, side, because restaurants and grocery stores have a lot of organic waste, and there's often a pile at one of our transfer stations of organic waste that didn't come from anybody's home. It came from a local business, and so we need a solution. Our world needs a solution, because this is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas and the climate changes. We talk about that in the Climate Advisory Committee. So great that John's got enthusiasm and that he's going to investigate this and soon bring something back to council in terms of a further update on actions that we might take. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and what I like about it is there's no new technology. Technology's there, right? Just make it bigger. There was a further question regarding the 144 people who didn't win the lottery, so to speak, or get that. So do at the 25% discount, that puts it up to about $375. Do we still want to offer that out? It has to be in multiples of 36, though, I believe, because that was what this is a skid. Oh, sorry.
So this would basically be, we would provide the discount to the householders, and it's up to them if they want to purchase directly from Vitamix. We'd be out of the transaction.
Oh, that's even better. So this council chamber wouldn't be filled with those large boxes again. Yeah, we can't. Okay. All right. I misunderstood that. Okay. So
we are going to do that.
Yes.
John, you're taking that. You're going to provide that discount code, if you like, to all 144 of those people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. And I also know Minden is just started. They're about what, week 4 or 5 or something in their program.
About that, yeah.
About that. So it's great in the service delivery review at the county. I think the waste management one is the one that's, yeah, you're smiling. There seems to be some strides making forward there. So great. Mover seconder to receive this report if I could. Councillor Smith, Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole received this report for information about the food cycler pilot project. All in favor? Okay, carries. Next is your textile waste diversion.
Yeah, so this
Good.
is a follow-up to a report back in May of this year, in which Committee of the Whole and the Council directed staff to issue a request for proposals to secure a vendor to have textile recycling diversion at our sites. So in June, we issued the RFP. There was one organization that bid on the work, Cornerstone to Recovery. It's provided at no cost to the municipality. So this report kind of summarizes their process for the materials that they collect. So at all of our sites, the 5 waste disposal sites in Dysart, we have these new purple bins where residents can drop off clothing that you'd wear head to foot, and also additional textiles like bedding, blankets, and curtains. And then once those bins are filled, they are the Cornerstone to Recovery and their service provider, Recycling Rewards, picks up the material. Our first bin at Halliburton landfill, for example, is already full. So we have a pickup coming this week. So this is with minimal promotion already. People are finding the bins, using the bins. There's been some public service announcements on the radio I've heard already. And there should be some articles in the newspapers coming up probably this week, hopefully, that highlight this program as well. So it's a good news story that we have an additional way, in addition to the Lillian and the thrift warehouse. There are other opportunities now for residents to drop off clothing to be reused and recycled.
This is fantastic. And yes, I saw this advertised, and I'm so happy to see this, because not everybody wants to take their stuff for donation. Maybe some people think it's, maybe like the zipper's broken or something, or what do you do with old towels and sheets? And that's a lot of bulky material that was going into garbage that we're now diverting as well. Is there any container, like, can it be in a dark plastic bag? Can it, when you're inserting it into the slot, into that purple bin, and as well as everything staying dry in there?
Yeah, so we're asking that the material be bagged just to make it easier to remove the bag. Because we have a clear bag policy for garbage, we're asking that residents continue to use the clear bag, and also to help make a landfill attendant aware of what's maybe in those bags that are being dropped off. We can continue to reassess that as we get more information about the tonnage of material we're collecting. But I mean, we're in second week of it, and so far so good.
Okay, thanks. I might have missed that. Questions, Councillor Smith, and then Councillor Clark.
Well, a question, just to compliment John on pursuing this, because here's a new program. We know from the analysis that was done that it's not a large percentage, but close to 3% of our garbage was textiles and such. And so educating people to make use of this service, which is costing us nothing, is actually going to save us money, because we'll have less garbage to haul away. And it's obviously clearly also good for the environment. So when it's good for the environment, it's good for the economy, and it's good for our budget. What could be better? So John, thank you for getting this in place in such a timely fashion, and a program that's going to be at all 5 landfills. You don't need to make a special trip to the Halliburton landfill or whatever for it. Fantastic all around. Thank you.
And Councillor Clark, thanks.
Thank you for this, John. This is an area of concern I've had, because it's over the years hauling clothes and fabrics, and I think I'd mentioned at one point, I saw one company who's doing I guess high energy homes was having it ground and made into actually insulation, which was good. So it seemed to waste, it seemed to be not a good thing to see it going into the ground. So this is really great. The company that did bid on it, where are they from? Any information on?
Yeah, so Cornerstone to Recovery is based in Newmarket, I believe, and they have they run a number of nonprofit programs, primarily dealing with addiction and mental health. And so the money that is raised through the sale of the material helps subsidize the programs that they offer at low or no cost to their participants.
Okay, and thank you for doing the list of the stuff that's included. I was very quick to print that out of a package and put that in by our recycle area. My one question though is the larger textile items, such as broadloom carpet, that kind of thing, does that continue to go into the construction waste, or do you envisage any kind of an opportunity for that at some point in time?
Yeah, so at the moment, broadloom carpet or any of those type of large carpeting items go into the construction demolition waste piles. It is a harder material to recycle just based on its size and its makeup, where you typically have a backing on it. It is something I can continue to explore about what options would be maybe available for that material. It's probably a slow process on that one, but it's definitely something I continue to look at.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, this is all good news from John Watson today. So I need a mover and a seconder if I could. Councillor Donaldson and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole received this report about textile waste diversion for information. All in favor? Okay, carried. And next is the single tier waste management. Well, that's a lot of words. You go.
Yeah. So this is a report for information. So as Committee of the Whole is aware and Council is aware, waste management is becoming increasingly complex and expensive. And in Halliburton County, each of the 4 lower tier municipalities are responsible for managing their own waste management programs, such as collection, processing, and disposal. We each have large geographic boundaries and small population sizes. And our contracts tend to be issued individually, and often administrative reporting is duplicated. In addition, residents and businesses are sometimes confused by the variations amongst the policies, practices, and fees of the 4 lower tier municipalities. And this can also challenge our promotion and education efforts when we maybe all handle materials slightly different. In September of 2021, the Halliburton County Service Delivery Review passed a long resolution, but part of it was that the committee directed staff to continue investigating 1-tier waste management service delivery. So this report is just identifying that the County of Halliburton, in conjunction with the 4 lower tier municipalities, will be issuing a request for proposals to engage a consultant to research and present a single tier waste management service delivery plan. The successful proponent will provide recommendation for that single tier waste management service delivery model that would maximize administrative efficiencies, harmonize and standardize policies, procedures, and services, be cost effective, and provide exceptional customer service opportunities. The proponent would also take into account the financial assets and liabilities, for example, the landfills, transfer sites, equipment, bins, staffing of the 4 municipalities in their research and analysis. And then the proponent will recommend a service delivery model for the single tier waste management for the County of Halliburton, which complies with all related Ontario legislation and regulations, including identifying the legislative requirements to actually arrive at a single tier waste management service delivery model. The county will be issuing that RFP potentially in the next week or so. It would close in September, be awarded in October, and then the work would happen in the fall into spring of 2023. And then in spring 2023, the successful proponent would submit their final report and present the 4 lower tier municipalities and the council about the recommendation. This was included in our 2022 budget. So each of the 4 lower tier municipalities has budgeted about $7,000 each, with the county budgeting approximately $25,000 for this study.
Like I said, all good news from John Watson. Where are we at with going to the local municipalities? Where are their resolutions at? I'm not sure if you know, or Mallory knows, or maybe John, do you know, like is Dysart last or first, or?
We're kind of in the middle. Some of the local lower tier municipalities, based on their kind of their reporting structure, they're just doing it as part of a summary report.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there'll be a few of us who are just doing a separate report about this. Because it's been budgeted already in our 2022 environmental management budget, it's a report for information.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Thanks for this report, John. Looking forward to seeing the results. The 2 questions, if I may, Madam Mayor. First question is, the RFP, do you know if it's going to include looking outside the boundaries of Halliburton County? The Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus wrote a white paper in 2016 recommending that single tiers look to each other to partner Specifically, they were talking about maybe Renfrew, Hastings, and Halliburton County pooling together these similar resources that we're trying to do on a smaller scale. I'm just wondering if the RFP is going to include that the consultants will take a look at beyond our own borders as they develop a program. And the second part of my question, if I may, the single tier RFP closes in October. And then I look at the next item on the agenda, which is our Blue Box program, and I see that is going to close in February. Totally different sort of mixes here. How's one going to affect the other with that timing being 4 or 5 months apart? That's all it is. So thank you.
Yes, so with the first question around the scope of work, the scope of work is specific to the County of Halliburton and the 4 lower tier municipalities. The consultants obviously will be looking at examples of how single tiers may be implemented or managed in other jurisdictions in the province. And we can let the consultants that is the successful proponent know that there is this report from the Eastern region about maybe looking beyond the county level. But at this time being, it's just isolated to Halliburton County. For the second question, it is a fantastic question, a little bit of an unknown around how the Blue Box regulation and transition would kind of synergize with the single tier waste management. So the Resource Recovery and Productivity Authority, which is kind of the body overseeing the Blue Box transition, they would require that any change to the way Blue Box is delivered, that they have to approve that change can happen. So this is something the consultant would need to consider in their recommendations about whether RIPRA, the Resource Recovery and Productivity Authority, would allow such a change to happen. We suspect RIPRA would potentially agree to it, only because there is this desire to kind of standardize the program across not only the county, but across the entire province. And with the producer responsibility organizations taking over more of the Blue Box hauling and processing, we could see it could work in our favor, actually, that we're doing this work at the same time.
Yeah, good questions. I have a question just in reference to the item previous to this. Are any other lower tier municipalities doing a textile diversion?
Some of them have textile diversion at maybe 1 or 2 of their sites. Some also maybe have it in more public spaces where anyone can access it any time of the day. You tend to get more dumping at those type of locations. So we've really tried to keep it at our 5 sites that could be staffed, and we can make sure we're not getting illegal dumping or dumping in front of it of materials we can't process.
Okay. Okay, well, I think, like I said, to do with the service delivery review, this is really on a go forward basis. And I think it's money well spent. Yeah. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just to follow on that theme, it's a great result from the service delivery review to see this type of consolidation being studied. It's something that hopefully other departments are looking at what's going on here with our environmental managers and coordinators and saying, gee, why aren't we doing the same, whether it be a building department or a planning department, and say, we could do more together. We could end up with a single, model across the entire county that would be simpler for our residents to deal with and understand, and could very likely provide better service to the community and maybe be more efficient from a resource point of view. So good for John and his colleagues, environmental managers, in doing this. And the only thought I had, John, when I read the report, and I see the RFP is far along and talk about it being issued next week. Encourage all of you to look carefully at how you're using these consultants, because you get started here. Consultants have a great way of turning this into a money stream. So you have a certain amount in mind that you're going to spend. They'll get that through phase 1 with that, and then they'll be back with, well, now here's phase 2, and it's another another chunk of cash they'll be looking for. So really be tight in terms of defining what you expect from them, and make sure you get that required deliverable in one bite here, as opposed to creating a 3 or 4 phase project. Thank you.
Okay, do have a resolution to move forward with this, if I could. Anyone wants to move that? Councillor Smith and Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives this report for information about the County of Halliburton issuing a request for proposal to hire a consultant to review and recommend a single-tier waste management service delivery plan for the County of Halliburton and its 4 lower-tier municipalities. All in favor? Okay, carried. And lastly is the blue box update.
So this blue box report, the blue box is my life at the moment. So this is like an ongoing multi-year project that all municipalities in Ontario are working towards and in. So back in June of 2021, the Ontario Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks released Ontario Regulation 391/21 Blue Box. That act or regulation, comes into effect on July 1st, 2023, with a 3-year transition period, and Dysart transitions to the new regulation and the new Blue Box program on January 1st, 2024. I last reported about this to Dysart's Committee of the Whole in August of 2021. Since then, there has been a lot of developments, but mainly in the last 3 months, it's been a lot happening. Some key takeaways for Committee of the Whole to be aware of is that 3 producer responsibility organizations, or PROs, are representing the producers of designated Blue Box materials: Circular Materials, Resource Recovery Alliance, and RISE Solutions. Circular Materials is by far the biggest of the producer responsibility organizations, and they are working in partnership with RISE. And because they represent 66% of the weight of Blue Box materials supplied to consumers in Ontario, they get to create the rules of the common collection system in Ontario. So back in May of this year, Circular Materials issued a master services agreement and statements of work for depot collection, public space collection, and promotion and education for those municipalities that are in this transition period. And again, Dysart would transition on January 1st, 2024. Following that, the Associations of Municipalities of Ontario, City of Toronto, the Regional Public Works Commissioners of Ontario, and the Municipal Waste Association wrote a letter responding to that master services agreement and statements of work. In addition, the 4 lower tier municipalities in Halliburton County issued our own letter to Circular Materials about our concerns about the initial master services agreement and statements of work. And there's a copy of that letter attached to this report. Subsequently, in June of this year, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario presented to the County of Halliburton's Committee of the Whole regarding this regulation, and there was a link to that report. In July of this year, Circular Materials issued revised master services agreements and statements of work based on feedback that municipalities and industry associations had provided to them. Again, there was another letter from some key stakeholders: AMO, City of Toronto, RIPCO, and MWA. And the 4 lower tier municipalities in county are just finalizing a letter that we will be sending to Circular Materials in regards to the updated statements of work and master services agreement that we have concerns about. Also in July, we met with staff from Circular Materials to just kind of review some of Dysart's current residential Blue Box program, the number of sites, the Blue Box tonnage, our current collection contract, and who owns which bins. At the end of August of this year, Dysart staff have to submit a final transition report to the Resource Productivity and Resource and Recovery Authority to kind of finalize our numbers of households. We have to provide a map of all of our homes that are eligible for Blue Box drop-off. A key takeaway as well about this regulation is it's very clear that it's only for residential materials. It does not include materials from the commercial sector. So in this report, I've explained how the residential Blue Box program would work. And there's kind of 2 components. One is the transition period, and the other is the post-transition period. The transition period is obviously the kind of greatest concern because it's happening the quickest. So in the residential drop-off program, residents would drop off their recycling at one of 5 depots. Circular Materials prefers that this would be at Dysart's existing landfill sites. But if we chose not to participate, Circular Materials would need to operate 5 depots elsewhere in the community. So residents, for example, would drop off their garbage at our sites and then go somewhere else to drop off their blue box material. Unfortunately, this could lead to blue box materials in the garbage, for example. In terms of hauling, Circular Materials would encourage Dysart to extend its existing agreement with Mid-Ontario, which ends December 31st, 2023, to go until the end of the transition period, December 31st, 2025. Circular Materials would reimburse us once a month. And we're still in discussions with Circular Materials about their payment model that they have proposed to municipalities. It's definitely in a state of flux right now as municipalities are number crunching and looking at the data that Circular Materials has access to and is basing some of their assumptions on. As well, Circular Materials would contract a company to open a receiving facility within Dysart, most likely, to consolidate blue box materials from municipal depots, and Circular Materials would be responsible for managing that contract, managing that whole thing. They would be responsible for contracting and paying a processor, which is something Dysart currently does. In terms of contamination, Circular Materials has set an aspirational contamination rate of 4%. Our contamination rate from our waste audits is not near there, so it definitely is aspirational. And they would offer us $1 per household for our promotion and education efforts. Obviously, this is kind of what it is today, what they're proposing. We're in constant conversation with CMO and some of our industry associations about what we're willing to, how we're willing to negotiate and what we're willing to eventually present to Dysart Council to see if we want to be a service provider to Circular Materials. The second part of this is around the non-eligible sources, and non-eligible sources is primarily the commercial sector. During transition, CMO would allow us to mix our residential blue box materials and our non-eligible blue box materials together, but we would take an automatic 25% hit to our funding, regardless of whether our commercial sector is 25% of our blue box materials. If we wanted to have kind of additional drop-off bins just for the commercial sector, we may have to amend some of our ECAs to make that happen. So we'd have separate bins for residential, separate bins for commercial. But some of the questions there is who funds the commercial blue box program if we were to offer it? Is it the taxpayer? Is it user pay? Do we offer that all 5 of our sites, just some of them? There's some questions there that need to be figured out down the road. The other option as well is that we could maybe require producer or like the generators of non-eligible sourced blue box materials, the commercial sector, to arrange for their own private blue box collection so they couldn't drop it off at our sites. But again, the commercial sector may not be agreeable to that kind of activity. We are a bit challenged when it comes to commercial blue box materials because historically we haven't made a distinction between residential and commercial. So we're really unsure about the tonnage that we get of commercial sector blue box materials. So in partnership with the 4 lower tier municipalities, Dysart's been preparing a survey to the commercial sector to really understand what their waste management practices are. We understand that, yes, they may be bringing us their garbage, but are they actually bringing us their recycling? We don't know. So this survey would help us ascertain that. And it's even asking questions around organics, for example. We've been in conversation with the Halliburton Highlands Chamber of Commerce and the Halliburton Business Improvement Area to help review the survey before we distribute it, just to make sure it's easy to understand and is usable. And once the survey is ready, we'll enlist those 2 organizations to help get the word out to their members to help us really understand the waste management practices of the commercial sector. In addition, we're working with the Continuous Improvement Fund to potentially do a field research project that would basically help us to understand the tonnage information from the commercial sector when it comes to blue box materials. So this is a little bit kind of, we're working on it with CIF as we speak. So we're hoping to maybe roll out this project in the next little while, and it would be for season because we want to understand is the commercial, I suspect the commercial sector has much more recycling in the summertime versus the wintertime, but we need the proof to demonstrate to Circular Materials that we have the information in hand to demonstrate what our commercial sector recycling is really like. And then in addition, the Association of Municipalities Ontario has invited me to speak at the AMO conference next week in Ottawa about Dysart's experiences with the blue box transition. So I'd be representing a rural depot program, and then the City of Ottawa is representing an urban curbside collection program, and Dufferin County would be representing a rural curbside collection program. So it's kind of an honor to be invited to explain our experiences during this transition process. This is understandably a lot to take in. There's still a lot of unknowns at this time around blue box transition and the new blue box regulation. I just want Committee of the Whole and Council to be aware that staff are very engaged in this process. And we are definitely, when it comes time to present an offer from Circular Materials to committee and council, that we have done our due diligence in making sure that we are fully prepared for what they're proposing and what their financial offer would be.
Wow. Yeah, I said it out loud because my mic is on, but every counselor in here just said, wow. So when I saw their report, it looked like a fairly short meeting, which today is, but this is a detailed report. And I just want to say, we are so fortunate here at Dysart to have someone like you, John, who is on top of this and now is going to AMO, which I am not attending. I didn't feel it was right to attend a conference. I'm so going to miss it because I barely ever went to any, and then COVID hit, but it wasn't right to attend a conference when I've declared I'm not running again. So good luck next Tuesday, and thank you so much for certainly understanding and keeping us abreast of the ever evolving, changing blue box program. So I do have some questions, comments. I did see Councillor Clark first, and then Councillor Smith.
Through you, Madam Mayor, not so much questions as congratulations, John, and for somebody to have so much enthusiasm about garbage. Power to you. AMO is very lucky to have you there. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, and echo that, John. Thank you for your efforts here. There's a lot of material, frankly, a lot of issues that arise when you go through this report. And maybe first, I'm going to start with, I think, a simple question. On the table there, which covers receiving, processing, contamination, and so forth, under contamination, where that 4% aspirational target is referenced, and you also portray our current numbers, 6.67. It says if Dysart was not reaching this goal, that being the aspirational target, it would need to produce an action plan. Now, is it they're referring to Circular Materials who's setting this aspirational goal, or are they saying that we at Dysart will own the responsibility of producing an action plan?
So it would actually be our responsibility as the municipality to produce the action plan. This is one of the bones of contention with Circular Materials and some of their statements of work. Because, for example, if they're only allocating $1 per household for promotion education, how do we get people educated and engaged in understanding changes to a program with that frankly very low financial support? Interestingly, if you're a curbside municipality, you get $1.50 per household. So this is also another bone of contention that we have, that the depot municipalities are getting potentially funded less for promotion education than the urban municipalities or cities or municipalities with curbside collection. Circular Materials is definitely giving the sense that the action plan, it would not lead to financial penalties if we can't get the contamination rate down to that aspirational 4% goal. They've identified, for example, some municipalities in British Columbia that have reached a 4% contamination rate. That's fantastic. It doesn't necessarily reflect the realities of Ontario's Blue Box program, and even large municipalities. I'm thinking of City of Toronto and Ottawa that have a large multi-residential component. That's going to greatly influence contamination rates as well. So this 4% threshold is definitely something all the municipalities, all the industry associations are very much concerned with, and how to actually achieve that kind of aspirational goal.
Thank you. Well, I might continue. I'm not going to go through all of the issues, I guess, but John, and I'll use that letter of June the 8th that you and your colleagues from elsewhere in the county put together. A fantastic document that goes on several pages, but really clearly identifies a whole host of issues. But it seems to me that one thing that you and your colleagues need to do, ought to feel free to do, is to engage your councils in supporting your efforts in negotiating with circular materials. The reality is that it was the provincial government which introduced this full producer responsibility with all sorts of fanfare. And I understand circular materials, they're working for the producers. Their objective is to take on as few costs as possible, and success for them and the people who are funding circular materials is keeping the cost in the municipalities wherever possible. So they can set unrealistic goals. They can tell you that you can re-educate your population for $1 per household, not even per individual, but $1 per household per year. You can't change anybody's behavior with such limited resources. And so, the council has the political capital to be making the case to our local provincial MPP, to the provincial government. This isn't coming through. This isn't delivering what you committed to. And the only way you're going to have success negotiating with circular materials is by engaging your councils to apply that political pressure, because they need to feel it coming from the other side saying, wait a second, success here is not leaving too much of this cost with the municipality. Because again, we're supposed to have a big reduction in our budget because this cost is going away. We've been bearing this forever, with kind of bearing half the cost of a recycling program. It's full producer responsibility. So, keep doing the research you're doing, keep producing the kinds of letters, make the presentations, but really engage council to help you be successful in these negotiations, because our interests aren't aligned with circular materials. Our interests are aligned, should be aligned with the provincial government that said it's full producer responsibility. And right now, they're not accepting that on the other side. Simple as that. Thank you.
Yeah, good points. Deputy Mayor Kennedy's next.
Thank you. Just another word of caution on that household definition. The province plays with that number depending on how it suits them, whether they include seasonal residents or not. So just be wary of that one. Don't be led down the garden path on that. For $1 a household, let's get every cottage and lean-to out there.
All the hunt camps.
All the hunt camps. The other part of it, the survey, I wonder if you considered sending out that directly to such groups as the Algonquin Gateway Association and our boys and girls camps, who obviously generate a large amount of material, specifically, and then possibly hitting like the Bill Vickery and Garbutt directly, rather than using the social media that you're talking about here, because they may be too busy to be watching that. Thank you.
That's great. That's fantastic feedback. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good points. I just want to go back to the contamination, in general terms, that it's almost 30% for in containers recycling. So I'm assuming that that's the cans and plastic. So is contamination because someone didn't rinse their ketchup bottle out? Can you describe contamination? Is that something we could be working on now anyway, regardless of how all this other stuff is working out? Like, how can you make sure you are not contaminating your containers?
Yeah, so contamination is often materials being placed into the bin that should not be there. So in our containers recycling, which is typically cans and bottles, glass, for example, some of the contamination we're getting is around plastic pouches that is used in food. So our ratepayers here in Dysart should be making sure that any of those plastic pouches go into the garbage, and that will decrease our contamination rate. Most of our contamination rate does have to do with plastics because there is some confusion about what we take and don't take. So I'd encourage people to be visiting our website, download our Halliburton County Waste Wizard mobile app or use the Waste Wizard on our website to really make sure that you're putting the right items into our blue box. Part of this blue box regulation is to standardize the blue box across the entire province. So come 2026, the list of acceptable materials should be the same everywhere in the province. And there is a desire to add some of those, which are traditionally more challenging plastics, into the blue box. So we may see some changes as part of this regulation. And we're going to see as well at the federal level, some of the bans on single-use plastics, which maybe if they're not in the marketplace, we won't end up having to manage them as either in our blue boxes contamination. So there is a bunch of stuff at play at the same time on that contamination front. But I would encourage people definitely use the tax bill insert, visit our website. Don't wish cycle. Don't just wish you can recycle it. Definitely check that you can do that.
That's a great last line. Very good. And I know you do a good job on social media, but like you say, there's other methods too that was in the tax bill of what, you'll do a little thing like, oh, it's a long weekend and you're eating your bag of chips or whatever. Yeah, sorry, that's garbage. So yeah, okay, thanks for that and explaining a little bit more about the contamination. So lots of information there. Glad you're on top of it. Have fun in Ottawa. And I'm sure that session will be busting at the seams. I hope they booked one of the bigger ballrooms for that session. There'll be a lot of municipal staff and people there. So move into seconder. Councillor Smith, another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to move it
Yeah,
if you want, but I just, John, one other thing, and particularly in Ottawa, you'll have a chance. We are not unique, but we are unusual in terms of across Halliburton County having no curbside collection. And, in some ways, a lot of these rules that Circular Materials is putting out are more geared to communities that have curbside collection. I'd encourage you to, beyond our own county, which you're doing a great job coordinating that, but to get other communities across Ontario that rely upon depots as opposed to curbside collection. If you can identify them when you're in Ottawa and end up collaborating, working together, you'll increase your clout in terms of negotiations with Circular Materials and getting, better terms, for us. Because one of the things, your report makes it clear that if Circular Materials, if they don't give us a good enough deal, we can say, sorry, we're not going to take your recycling. You got to set up your own. And they have to set up 5 depots in Dysart alone because they have to have the same number as we have today. That's a strength, should be a strength for you in negotiations because they don't want to set up 5 depots. That would be terribly expensive. But find those other communities that are in the same boat as us and see how we can leverage each other and in those negotiations. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Smith. And I do have that you've moved. I need a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives this report for information purposes about the new Ontario Regulations 391-21 Blue Box. All in favor? Okay, carried. All right, get back to your holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to bring Andrea Mueller in to give a Welcome Center report for July. Hi, Andrea.
Hey, good morning.
Okay, go ahead.
So this report captures the visitor statistics for the month of July. We're still working at a spreadsheet that the county tourism director has provided us with to even dig further into certain statistics. We just have to all get familiar with it. It's quite a large, I think it's a 7-page spreadsheet. So just trying to get used to that one. But as you can see, in the month of July, we had over 1,700 visitors to the Welcome Center. And that's just capturing the people coming through the doors. It's not capturing the people using the washrooms. On the exterior, we have no way to gauge how many people go in and out of those washrooms. There's days where staff are going to check them and they're constantly in use. That being said, we do know that there's been a large amount of people using them because we've had to increase our toilet paper supply. We've run out quickly. Our park staff were like, what? How'd you do that? It's like, it's just been really busy down there. We've had quite a few people coming in asking about the IV charging station. To my knowledge, it's still not up and operational. They had a technician come in a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't able to fix it that day. They were supposed to come back on the Friday of the civic holiday weekend. I don't know if they did or not, but as to my I haven't heard any updates that it's up and functional yet. So they were able to fix the one in Minden, but ours was a larger issue. So we're still waiting. As you can see, like, we got people that come through the doors, local residents just looking for information about things. We have people that have they have rentals, so they're looking to provide information, or they have visitors coming from out of town, so they come in asking for more information. But then, as you can see from the list, we have people from all over. We've had people from Australia, Germany, Denmark, and then from places in the United States and South America. So quite a broad range of people coming in for various reasons throughout the area. We've noticed just a lot of people in the park in general using it for picnicking and everything. Many families come in, set up their picnic and enjoy. We've had some people, unfortunately, who've lost items. There's been some instances of lost wallets, as well as a teddy bear that was really near and dear to someone. And in some cases, these items have not been turned in or returned. So we are a spot where people do come to check, but we haven't had too many items returned to us or turned in to us. There was, at the beginning of July or end of June, quite a few inquiries about the playground equipment. Those have seemed to have ceased, and people are using the swings and other equipment in the park. Staff were super excited on Monday, July 25th, to have over 100 visitors in the Welcome Center. So that was the first time since the Welcome Center doors have opened that we had over 100 people inside the doors. And so they were very excited about that, and they're hoping to hit that milestone many times over. And surprisingly, it was a Monday, not a Tuesday. Tuesdays are busy. I did attach a chart that shows the farmers market attendance versus the Welcome Center attendance. We do know that more people come in to use the interior washroom on the days of the farmers market. The busiest day that they had was the second week in July, with 1,900 people coming to the farmers market. And on that day, we had just under 100 people through the Welcome Center doors. So any questions about the Welcome Center?
Open up to the floor. Deputy Mayor Kennedy first.
Thanks for this, Andrea. Just when I was reading it, I was wondering any records of when we used to be the Caboose days, the visitor center, and how we're pairing now with the new building. If there was any historical data that we could, are we doing better, roughly the same? Or?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to, Tamara might have a better idea of that. I do know we've had some people come in thinking, oh, the Caboose isn't open anymore, you're here. So we've had those kind of comments where people were thinking about the Caboose, but I don't know how we're comparing. And Tamara, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, Tamara, go ahead, Tamara.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we do have that data from when the staff previously used to keep the record of those and report annually to council. So we can pull those out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any further questions? Councillor Smith?
On the charging stations, this is ridiculous that we've got a provider. We're in a 10-year agreement with these people. And so I'm curious if anybody's looked at the contract in terms of termination privileges, breach rights,
Yeah, I have brought it up. Actually, it was in the local media because I brought it up. I was not impressed. Because several people would reach out to me, someone in particular who runs a bed and breakfast, who had told the person that there was a charging station there. Corey McKay at the county is onto it, and there is going to be some compensation back to the municipalities for loss of revenue, etc. So we'll get a more detailed report. And we can ask Corey to look into what's in the contract. So,
Well, I just, I didn't support this in the first place. I thought installing a level 2 charging station was ridiculous. My daughter's got one in her garage for personal use. And lots of other people have EVs do that. So maybe, just maybe, we could look at this as an opportunity to get out of a bad agreement. And, they're in breach. Are they or are they not? I don't know. We haven't been given a copy of the contract, but, when you enter an agreement like this, the provider has some obligation to keep the service up and running. And, this isn't a kind of a day after day. This is week after week. In fact, be fair to say now it's month after month.
Yeah. Councillor Smith, you've made your point, and I'll look into it at the county and ask Corey to report back to all of us at the county, if that's okay. So from my understanding, talking to the technician that day, it's still to do with the modem. So I don't know why I was hopeful it would be fixed that day. Anyway, I will contact Corey and see where they're at. Any further questions on the Welcome Center report? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Wood Roberts.
Just as far as she's wondering about the usage in the washrooms, can we put a meter on it then to see what the usage is? Would that give us any sort of reflection?
I guess that's a question for the building department as far as a meter goes.
Yeah, I don't know how, I think that how much toilet paper you go through is a very good gauge. Put it this way, the people that use it, I can tell you from that Rotary event in the rain last Wednesday, and from attending music in the park, and from being at things, it is so appreciated to have clean, accessible washrooms in a park. And that isn't a common thing. And it makes people want to stay. It makes people want to be able to come to town with their family, with their kids, stay a little longer, have a picnic in the park, and not have to, we did have the pit privies, but they are not, very comfortable for some people. So anyway, they are extremely appreciated. And I don't know how you could put a meter on the door if you like tracking. Oh, water. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. I did have a question. It was just briefly to Andrea regarding the playground equipment. And so there's no report in our today's meeting, but at some point, are we going to talk, and maybe at the next council meeting, Tamara, you've got your hand up. Can I finish my sentence? Just say to do it. Sorry, but maybe you know what I'm going to say, to do with the fundraising campaign and setting targets and inviting people to be part of a group, members from the public. So go ahead, Tamara.
Yeah, that was our plan. Realistically, we've had 3 days of staff time since the last council meeting to try and get any answers. And while we have been continuing to communicate with the companies, we don't have the final information yet, but we hope over the next couple of weeks we'll have that for council and be ready to launch a fundraising campaign immediately.
Well, and I'm wondering though, aside from that, there are members of the public who reach out to me and maybe some other councillors and maybe to staff. Could we do something like, are you interested in being on a fundraising campaign for the playground equipment without what it looks like, how much it costs or anything? Could we be reaching out using our platforms and to contact Andrea Mueller if you're interested in being part of the fundraising campaign for the Head Lake Park playground equipment? Is that possible to start that any time?
That's up to council if you'd like us to do that. Yeah,
I think while people are interested and have reached out already, there's no harm in getting, the members of the public who are interested involved as soon as possible. Okay, Andrea and then Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
I've also had somebody reach out to me who's very interested in being part of a fundraising campaign. I will be away next week, so maybe it's something that we could have start the following week, the week of council, if that's the desire of committee of the whole or council.
I'm okay with that, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah, just on that, I've been approached and we've had a couple of people say they would love to lead the charge from the public side, take on that job of coordinating. And I said, well, it just passed council in July. And I said, we'll get together. And I said, so I'm just taking names right now. And but the community is behind this. from what I've seen and heard in a very limited way. And I think let's strike while the iron's hot, and we sit down with Tamara and procurement people and HCDC, for example, for grant writing and that type of thing. And I think there's opportunity here to, the sooner that we get on this, the better. And it is summer, so maybe if it's late August, early September, but if we have a date that we're gearing up towards.
So Andrea, you're back August 22nd?
Yes, I'm back for that week. And then I'm away again. So I've broken up my vacation throughout the summer.
That's okay. Tamara, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just Deputy Mayor Kennedy mentioned procurement, and it reminded me that we also in the last, between meetings, Jennifer and the other staff have worked together to submit an application to Trillium for 150,000 for an add-on to the main equipment, so that we're not jeopardizing one piece if we don't get the other. So if we can focus on that main piece, and then we've asked for another 150 for a piece that goes along with that. So
yeah.
Done
Yes,
as well.
so that's been submitted. Okay, that's excellent. So I'm going to look to council. It doesn't need to be in a resolution, but if Andrea started advertising on social media and using, Canoe and our local media as well, not just social media, to see if you're interested in being part of a fundraising campaign for the Head Lake Playground equipment, please contact A. Mueller at or so August 22nd, start that. Excellent. Okay, so we'll do that too. Okay, so we just have a resolution regarding the Welcome Center though. Okay, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives the Welcome Center report for July for information purposes. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. I'm going to look to council. It's 10:30. Sometimes we take a 15-minute break. We don't have a long agenda, but it might be nice to stretch your legs for 15 minutes and come back and finish up or push through. Break. I have nods for a break. So we'll call a recess and we'll reconvene at 11:45. 10:45. Thank you. Okay, so we're back from our recess, and first up is building and bylaw, and we have all our staff ready to go. So the first report, I believe that's you, Carl, is the building permit activity. Any comments you want to make on that?
Yeah, the permit numbers tend to be high as comparison to last year. I did change the report a little bit to add the average daily inspections, because I did find it that we were challenged in having enough resources to complete the inspection. So I knew that there was something going on. So I did go back and start comparing the permit numbers to see the inspection numbers to see where they were. 2019 was the earliest I can go back to, because that's when we started actually tracking the number of the actual permits that we were completing. So inspections are getting higher, and I think that's because a lot of the permits that were taken out in last year, 2021, are being started this year and increasing our permit numbers. So that those daily average inspections should continue to rise based on that, if my theory is correct.
Okay, so everyone follow that? Yep. And it, like I see you say, it looks like still building permits themselves are, still up. So you're keeping busy is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely no shortage of work.
No. but are you meeting your targets? Like when you say when from the time of a phone call to the time of for whatever inspection, now we're doing our footings, now we're doing our framing. Are we able to meet those targets?
So we're doing inspections. We're still offering same day inspections because it doesn't
Oh.
matter if we push them out 2 days in advance. It's still, they're going to pile up. So we're still completing with the inspections within, same day inspections if people call that day and we're in that area. The permit reviews are slowed down a little bit just because there's so many of them, and we only have one person that's available to complete those reviews. So that person's out doing inspections as well. So that's slowed down slightly, but we're still within manageable timelines.
Okay, excellent. Any questions on that report? Okay, mover seconder, Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be resolved that the committee of the whole receives the June and July 2022 building permit activity report as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next, we have the bylaw report. So Robert. Oh, Robert, you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry about that, everyone.
Okay.
Pretty same report as each month there. We've got our June and July. June was up one complaint, and we were actually down a couple of complaints from the last 2 years, as you can see there in the table. Pretty happy with the month of July. Got had a lot of inspections come to a close via a lot of voluntary compliance, which was really nice to see, and having people voluntarily comply with the orders instead of the bylaw department having to come force their hand, which was great. Parking meters, we can see up with their totals pretty high. We did have an issue near the end of the month where someone did ram the entry gate to the medical center. No information was given onto the vehicle or anything like that. Maybe some cameras can be installed. If we can go that route, we'll leave that for, I guess, another council. And if there's any questions, I can answer.
Okay, any questions on the bylaw report? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you. I had, I guess, 3 areas of question. And first, just with regard, and I really appreciate, Rob, the information that shows the age of kind of the open infractions. And, we've now got a total of 5 that are more than a year old. And then 4 additionals that are over 6 months that they've been outstanding. Can you give us a comment, like in terms of cases that have been open that long? What do you need from council to help get these things brought to resolution quicker?
A couple of these, Councillor Smith, one is waiting on feedback from our solicitors, and another one is waiting for some go ahead for hydro on their property. A lot of these are ones that are in limbo, not because of my lack of doing anything. It's other obstacles that have come in the way of that. Example of what I have just spoken about. I don't think there's, with those ones that are over a year, there's nothing really council can help me out with. It's a fact of waiting for other agencies to get back to either myself or the property owner.
Okay, so they're in the works.
Well, it just, I mean, the problem with these things is that, somebody filed a complaint. There's a victim in these things and somebody that's suffering, because there's a violation on their road or next door to them or whatever that's been outstanding for a long time. And so I that's why I wanted to get the age of these things. And I think we need to understand wherever there may be opportunities for council to provide support to Rob or whatever, to find ways of getting them resolved, more quickly. When you just see that number, it keeps increasing. The ones that are over a year old now, and as I said, even the ones that are over 6 months. Rob, a couple of situations, and I'd sent you emails about these. So the two-tiered docks, I remember it seems like 2 or 3 months ago now that either you or Carl mentioned there'd been an issue with somebody installing a two-tiered dock, and I had a local resident send me a picture of a two-tiered dock on Grace Lake with kind of a, how can this be legal? And it was pretty shocking. It really looks like 2 docks. One is sitting in the water, and then on poles sitting above it is a second dock that has chairs and stuff on it. And so it strikes me as being completely inconsistent with our regulations of our zoning bylaw. And you guys had indicated, again, 2 or 3 months ago, you had mentioned to council that you were pursuing this. Where is that?
I don't know that, can we answer any specific cases without identifying people? I just want to check with Mallory.
I'm just on the concept of a two-tiered dock.
Okay.
Is it,
Okay, so if you're not identifying anybody.
Not identifying any individual.
Right.
Right, I won't identify anybody as well. Pardon me. This 2-level dock, you're right, it doesn't comply with the zoning bylaw. I've asked for a legal opinion due to the property owners registering that dock with Transport Canada as a vessel. So I've contacted our solicitor, and I'm waiting back on them for a legal opinion on what they think, and so I can use that as a suggestion of whether or not what to my next steps in this case.
Yeah, and thank you, Robert. And so to Councillor Smith, as we know, we're not the only one with this type of structure in Dysart. There's a few throughout Halliburton County. So also, Robert, maybe deal with your counterparts at neighboring municipalities and see where they're at with, of whatever they can share. So, but is there anything, anything, I was wondering about the medical center gate. Maybe there was some specific damage that day, but there also on an ongoing basis has been some mechanical issues. We changed the system, but we never actually changed the arm, the gate, the mechanism. Is there some thought, or was that for budget of 2023, or what's happening with the medical center gate itself?
So prior days to when somebody ran the gate, we had the exit gate seized up, and it went right down to its bumper, meaning it wouldn't acknowledge any signal coming through. That was reset and fixed within the day, Monday, because this happened on a Thursday or a Friday. On the Monday, it was back up and running okay. I do believe that when the medical center machines were put in, they should have been, in my opinion only here, the gate should have been redone as well. It is 2 clashing components that you're using technology from one company and technology from another company. Having them come from one company would be, you could ensure, not guarantee, but ensure that more successful communication between the 2 machines. If council wishes, I can go ahead and get quotes for replacing those gates. And
no, I think it would be premature for this council. This is after this meeting. Okay. We're actually already in lame duck because this is committee of the whole. So I'm just asking the question that at some point, and so perhaps it would be well to investigate it for a future budget. I would, that's some work you can do on your own, because we wouldn't want it where in the future where the arm, like all things mechanical, they need replacing. You can only fix so many times and then they do need replacing. So it's just something for consideration in a future time. I'm not going to suggest that we do anything today.
Okay.
Councillor Smith? You bet.
I'd one other example here that I wanted to review, again, not to divulge any individuals, but Rob is familiar with the file. I had a local property owner contact me over the weekend about a non-compliant dock in their area. And it's a situation here where somebody's owned a property for many years. A new neighbor, new owner comes in next door this past spring and installs a new, much larger dock in a different location than the previous owner. The longtime owner approaches his new neighbor and says, welcome to the neighborhood. That dock, is in an improper location. It can't stay there. It's interfering with my ability to get in and out of my dock. And is told, I'm not moving it. Oh, okay. So the neighbor knows the rules. He contacts Rob on July the 5th and files a formal complaint. Rob actually went out and met with the offending owner on July 29th on site.
Councillor Smith, I'm just
Yep.
going to ask you a question. Committee of the whole is not this. It's not in this report, and we do have access to tell people to contact our staff, and staff can contact you. Like, I don't want to waste time talking about one case in particular.
Well, the point
What's your
is that, again, back to the age of the report, of these complaints, we're not getting these things resolved quickly enough. So here's a formal complaint has been filed about an improper dock location on July the 5th. On the weekend, August the 7th, I guess it was, I was out there. This thing is still in the wrong location. Does the owner, who's being the victim of this situation, who now has trouble getting his boat in and out of his spot because an abusive new neighbor has decided to disobey the law? Does he have to tolerate that all summer?
I think that's a specific situation that shouldn't necessarily be talked about at this table. This is committee of the whole. It's not to talk about individual situations. So you can, after this meeting, go down and talk to Robert. Mallory, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not sitting here to talk about individual situations.
But
Or each
I'm
council
talking
could bring,
about
but
the time it takes us
it's been
to.
a couple of weeks. That's been like 4 weeks.
It hasn't been a couple of weeks. July the 5th, the formal complaint came in. And there's no direction to the new owner that dock has to get out of there by this coming weekend or whatever.
So because we're talking about a specific case, I think that we should not be talking about that today. So I am going to cut you off, hold you off on there. Don't think there's anything else to discuss regarding the report. And if no, then I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder to move along. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole accept the bylaw update report of June and July as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. And you can contact Robert Mashia after the meeting. Septic reinspection program, pardon me, Bree, that's you. Bree and Carl, sorry.
I'm the one that created the report for the
Right.
WSP annual report. So I'll speak to that one. So I did receive it in June of this year, and I have read through it, not in great detail. So, but I did pick out some figures that we typically review and report on. So which I've summarized in the report itself. So basically, we had out of 792 inspections, 64% low risk, 26% at medium risk, and 9% at high risk. So again, we're still dealing with the results of these inspections and mitigating what we need to do. Bree's been busy to create lists as to how to tackle these outstanding issues. So it's something that we're going to be dealing with this year to try to mitigate the ones that were identified last year, but we only had the reports available this year to follow up on. So that with Bree's report, which shows all the issues and outstanding items from this year's inspections, Bree's going to be a busy person trying to figure out how to deal with all those outstanding issues. But I'll let Bree to talk to that one. Any issues with, or sorry, any questions on the annual report itself?
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, on this, Carl, this looks to be a long time coming. And it looks like an awful lot of boilerplate. So I guess my only comment is, you know, I think, you know, wisely move this in house. And but is there, you know, given that it's boilerplate and probably used in multiple areas, is there anything else you can use in terms of I guess embellishing your program, you know, with Bree, you know, the program you guys have put together? Is there anything in there that you might have missed you want to put into your program, or see anything there of value that you want to add?
That's a good question for council. Is there anything else that you would want to see in our reports that is in this report? One thing I found in this report that didn't break out are the lakes itself. So the lakes themselves, as to what the issues were for each lake. And I realized, talking with lake associations in the past, that they wanted their numbers for their lake to see what their issues were. So I actually did that for was it Mesquabi Lake that we did under
Winona, yeah.
Winona. I actually did that for their lake associations. I broke out all their inspection reports out of the reports, and provided them a detailed list as to their number of their issues themselves. But the report itself didn't break that down. So any feedback that council has that you'd want to see from this report brought over to our reports, we're open to that suggestion.
Okay, I imagine that your annual report will be distributed probably like by February or March, not June next year for the 2022. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I actually thought that the WSP report was, aside from the lack of information by lake, a pretty good report. It, you know, provides granularity by class of systems. So, you know, it was interesting to me that 85% of the 238 class 1 systems, so those are basically outhouses and composting toilets, but 85% of these had issues. And remedial action, though, was only required on 47% of them. So I was kind of curious, no explanation report as to, well, if they get 85% got issues, why is action, follow-up action only required on kind of half of that number? The other thing was on the class 4 systems, those have got a septic tank. There are 19 metal tanks. And that was a pretty alarming thing, because they went on to describe, you know, the corrosion issues with that, and the risk of these things collapsing and so forth. So, you know, I'm hoping that Carl and Bree in time will be able to follow up on making sure that each of those 19 are dealt with. They also had in there an age of the systems. You know, they talked about 60% of the systems that they inspected being over 20 years old, and 13% over 40 years of age. And so that age, particularly if there's over 40 years of age, you know, that's almost certain to have big issues. So, but the problem with the report was that it came on June the 23rd, which was about 6 months late. So you never get a good mark with your professor at university when you turn in a paper late. It may be the world's greatest paper, but if it's 6 months late, it's no good. But those are the aspects, Carl, to your question of things that you might incorporate into your reporting, or Bree might incorporate into her reporting when she's kind of looking at the total year. That sort of granularity, as I said, I found to be insightful, but we'll obviously need an action plan on those things. Thank you.
So if I could just reply to that,
Yes, please.
It's great to gather a lot of statistics, but if we're not using those statistics for anything else other than, oh, that's interesting information, it's not worth gathering that, spending time to create those figures. I've always been a big believer of that, and like with the class of systems and the function, the issues with it per class of system, is that something that council would do anything with? It's not something that staff would do anything with. We would treat them all. It's a septic system, whether it doesn't matter the class. So those are the only things I go back on in breaking out the classes of septic systems, because to us it's not important because we're going to deal with it. It's still a septic system. But if that's something that council thinks is good reading material, we could consider that, I guess.
Councillor Smith to follow up, and then Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks. Just, Carl, I completely agree with that sentiment. The reason I focused on the class 1, the outhouses and composting toilets, was I said, the identification that 85% of them had issues and 47% required action. First off, in that one area that WSP did last year, the fact that there were 238 class 1 systems, and almost all of those were outhouses, was a bit of a surprise and a wake-up call. And so learning that we have that many systems out there, and I think Lake Association would be interested in this, or that many outhouses, and that they have that proportion of issues, is there an opportunity for council and working with the lake associations to educate people on the problematic nature of these systems and how it could be a step in the right direction from a lake health point of view of getting rid of them, moving to a better, cleaner solution, if you like.
Bree, and then to Councillor Clark after. Bree, go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify with regards to that, the class 1 systems, there are still a lot present across everywhere, but those aren't, so that 200 and whatever that number was, is not, that doesn't mean that property is solely served by a class 1 system. So majority of these properties are also being served by a septic system or whatever. They just have a separate place in the woods so there's more privacy for more delicate times. Those numbers and stuff like that, while they are high or seemingly high, those properties, those outhouses aren't necessarily getting overly used all the time, because they are still being served by other systems as well. And the other thing I was going to say with regards to the report itself and such is that the WSP had quite a large administrative team versus I am doing my very best, but for me to sit there and bang out 100 and something page report or something along those lines with regards to these types of statistics, it does take a while to gather that information. So that's something that I would like to be sort of cautious on or wary on as well, is that it would take quite a bit of time to be able to gather that type of information in order to be able to provide that as like a final report for everybody.
So Councillor Clark is waiting.
Can I just respond to that? I don't want to, Bree, I wasn't suggesting that you create the type of report that WSP produced. That would be unreasonable, and there are better things for you to spend your time on, because you're right. They've got a system that you're never going to have. And I know that the 238 properties don't all depend solely upon their outhouse, but and you and Carl would be experts in this regard. It strikes me that it might be a good educational path to encourage those people that no longer actually need the outhouse. Maybe it was set up 30 years ago when they didn't have indoor plumbing. Maybe you should get rid of it. All right.
Well, I think that's somebody's personal preference as long as they're abiding by that. There's a lot of people that every summer they have the whole family up, and boy, oh boy, that extra little outhouse in the woods is just what's needed when you have a house full. So Councillor Clark, you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree. Your time in the field produces a lot more benefit to this community than sitting there and trying to recreate the report that these people have done. My concern about the class one is it throws I guess the urgency off. What I've seen as the mayor has identified, the class one systems often get used for, a couple weekends a year as an overflow. They're not water intensive where they're putting a lot of stuff into the groundwater, so they haven't got the same impact on the lakes as what the more traditional or the larger septic systems have. So I guess my only concern about, I don't think it's bad to identify the class one, but identify them as a separate issue, because to me, they're not the items that require the $25,000 or $30,000 rebuild when you've just got a privy out in the forest somewhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Bree, go ahead.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add about that is that a lot of the issues that were identified for the class one systems are things like screens missing or it being not vermin proof or something along those lines. So those are things that are outlined in the building code as code requirements for a class one system, but they aren't necessarily bringing causing an immediate danger. If they were outlined as, there was an outhouse constructed over top of a stream or right by a stream or right by the lake or something like that, then that is certainly something we would follow up on. But with regards to the immediate danger or like the, urgent need for attention, majority of the class one repairs that we've required are basically just, put a screen on one of the openings so that a squirrel can't climb in there and something along those lines.
Okay, so, and I think what you're hearing is the report should be simple, easy to read, nothing like what we're seeing from WSP, because we wouldn't, with the next council wouldn't expect that, but basically a summary of the whole year of how many inspections were done and how many were low risk, high risk, what are the resolved and outstanding, all of that, basically what your next report is going to show, but consolidated. And, I think that would be probably what people are expecting. Not 104 pages, which not everybody has time to read all 104 pages. So let's move this first resolution, which was the annual report. So that was Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole received the 2021 Septic Reinspection Program Annual Report as information. All in favor? Okay, so that's carried. So if you want to just now speak, Bree, to your this report.
Okay. Yeah. So the report is to reflect the inspections completed in June and July. So we have two seasonal inspectors, as you know. Both Kaylin and Jessica have been quite busy out in the field, basically rain or shine, out at people's properties. We have completed over 450 inspections to date, so we're well over halfway. We've completed most inspections all the way through Eagle Lake, Moose Lake, West Lake, Gun Lake, and so on and so forth. So we're working through right now. I think basically the remaining ones are Halliburton Lake, Percy Lake, and a bit of Oblong, and then cleaning up some of the properties that had either rescheduled or weren't available for their initial inspections. But each property in the other remaining lakes have had their initial attempt so far. I think consistent with previous year programs, we are seeing that number of bedrooms is one of our highest offenders. We have had a few things. Again, we are still seeing metal tanks. So we have had a few issued with regards to tank replacements due to heavy corrosion, etc. But beyond that, I would say the number one offender is still overuse of the systems as per their approved usage. Yeah. Are there any questions?
Questions? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Bree. A great table that you've got there. One thing that was surprising, certainly attention getting, the proportion of the inspections that resulted in medium and high risk reports for the ones you're doing this year is much higher than what WSP reported in theirs for the 792 inspections they completed last year. I was wondering if you had any insight as to why that may be the case.
I mean, I can't speak to it specifically because I wasn't really involved in the WSP inspections firsthand, other than seeing some of the reports and stuff like that. We are working in areas where we have older systems now. Like Halliburton Lake is definitely one of the older areas of our municipality, so perhaps it's something along those lines. It's also one of the higher areas for short-term rentals, et cetera, stuff like that. So I'm not entirely sure. It's something that could be probably dug into if we needed to, but as of right now, yeah, I don't have a concrete answer.
All right. Are you surprised at the 43% medium risk and 31% high risk that you're identifying? Did those numbers catch you off guard, or?
Not particularly, honestly, just based on construction and stuff like that in the area, and what we've seen in previous years, like even Kinesis Lake versus Redstone Lake area versus so on and so forth. Like it does fluctuate depending on the higher traffic rated areas or whatever, where people are sort of more concentrated. Yeah, I don't know that it would necessarily be a surprise. It's definitely something that we're hoping, as we sort of progress with the program through the years, that it's not something that we'll see recurring, just because this is the first time running the program for all of the areas. So hopefully once we renew the program in the future, we'll see lower numbers as we go through and as people become more educated and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it sure reinforces the value or the importance of the inspection program when you see numbers like that nearly 3/4 of the systems have medium or high risk issues. It's wow, great for our lakes to get these things addressed. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the septic inspection program is the number one thing we can be doing for our lake health. Absolutely. And when you read though what some of the medium risk infractions are, it could just simply be a pump out that's needed to, which is just might be someone hadn't scheduled. So I'm not too concerned with the medium risk. The high risk obviously is what we really need to focus on. And I think Bree, you hit it on the nail. Some of the places up there are, in the 60+ year old cottages. So anyway, keep going. And I would suggest that something like that with some more detail in it would, and done that on an annual basis would really probably be what council's looking for, but I won't be here. So you do whatever you, whatever. Okay, let's move to receive this report, please. Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges the receipt of the sewage system maintenance inspection program update report. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thanks, everybody. Got your work cut out for you for the rest of the month.
Thank you.
Yep. So lastly is just finance. So Barbara, you're up.
Yes, good morning. So the first report here is the check summary report for July 2022. Total disbursements were $1,336,191.86. And that is broken out between our accounts payable and payroll. Accounts payable was just over 1.1 million, and the balance for payroll was $235,980.
Any questions on check register? Okay, mover seconder. Councillor Donaldson, and I'm sorry, I was looking over there. Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the July 2022 check summary. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Tax applications. Relief.
Yes, so we have here two Section 357 write-offs totaling of $545 for the municipal portion. And the two properties are for building demolitions.
Okay. With the standard, so I'll just look for mover and seconder. Councillor Wood Roberts, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole recommends that council authorize tax adjustments for the applications made under Section 357 Municipal Act 2001. I believe there's a typo there, as amended, and the total was there. All in favor? Okay, carried. And lastly is the report for the tax sale.
Yes, so this is just an update for council. This is actually the second tax sale this year, just getting caught up from COVID. And so we do have 5 properties that are eligible for tax sale, which will be held on August the 31st.
That's been well advertised and on our municipal website. There's detail, including maps and everything of the properties listed. I know I went on there. And the owners of those properties can right up until that time and even after pay what the tax is owing and that tax sale gets removed. Is that correct?
Yes, the current owners can make payment up to the point of the property being transferred ownership to the bidder.
Okay, and that's held all electronically. And so, yeah, okay. Any questions on that? Property tax sales? Nope. Mover seconder, Councillor Smith and Councillor Wood Roberts. Be resolved that the committee of the whole received this report regarding the properties eligible for tax sale on August 31st, 2022 as information. All in favor? Okay, so that is carried. And that concludes our meeting unless there is any notice of motion today. Oh, seeing none, then I will just look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Smith. Be resolved that the committee of the whole adjourn its meeting held on August 9, 2022 at 11:23 a.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.